If y'all have heard some jank beeping noise while this has been going, first of all, I hope it didn't cut me off. If it did, I have uploaded. I'm saying I have, knowing that by the time that this is posted, it will be online. So, yeah, I have posted this to my Substack and my Patreon, so you can read the script. So, if that beeping noise like cut me off and you heard that beeping noise, whoops. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, good for you. Because it's truly irritating me. Anyway, this will be the longest portion of the video. So, pause if you want, grab a snack, get comfortable, or continue to go about your business if you're listening and not even watching it. I like this artwork, so hopefully you'll see it at the end. Anyhow, this is essentially my headcanon version of this movie. There's very likely going to be a live action version of Tangled, whether the people want it or not. I've had a long list of issues and frustrations with these films for years. And honestly, after seeing the teaser trailer for the latest Disney live action, I was again disappointed, unimpressed, but so very inspired. Inspired to, as my mom puts it, be a part of the solution. So, without further ado, I will share with you my plot pitch for Disney's Tangled 2020 something. I miss when things said Walt Disney Pictures Presents. To start off, this will no longer be narrated by Flynn. It will be narrated by the parents instead. I want the emotionality of this loss to feel heavier, and I think having the story retold from their vantage point could be interesting. Plus, I'd like to have Amanda and Eddie narrating a fairy tale. With the element I've added to Rapunzel's magical hair, you could even keep the line of, "This is the story of how I died." If we wanted to keep the opening line hook the same, it would just be from the Queen instead of Flynn. We'll get into that. What I want is to feel as emotional as I did in the season 1 finale of Once Upon a Time when Emma is reunited with Snow White and Charming. I want to cry that hard at Rapunzel reuniting with her parents. Or at least shed a few tears. Then we get into the same beats. Gothel is singing to the flower, the guards take the flower, the queen needs the flower water, she gives birth to Rapunzel. Here's where I make a change. She dies. And then, when the king is holding his wife and their daughter, the king is singing the morning song. It'd be the same lyrics Gothel did to the flower. Baby Rapunzel's hair glows, and the mother comes back to life. Then we have the king and queen keep her magical hair a secret, but the night the queen dies and then lives, Gothel oversees the whole ordeal. But instead of kidnapping Rapunzel right away, I want to have her sneaking into the palace to use Rapunzel for her hair. Because she's able to get in and out with ease, she doesn't immediately resort to cutting a piece of her hair for herself. So, fast forward about 2 years, and here's where we somewhat resume the same plot. Now that Rapunzel is about 2 to 3, she's capable of walking and talking, and so she ends up sharing with her parents that she likes when her friend that comes in through the window visits and sings. Rapunzel would see Mother Gothel every few weeks, and she'd think Gothel is like her godmother, essentially. With the reveal of Gothel entering the castle and using Rapunzel, the king and queen tighten security. An element I want to either introduce or make plain is that the older Gothel gets, the less time she has between the usage of Rapunzel's hair. So by the time it's Rapunzel's 18th, she's on crunch time to get Rapunzel back. She's actually on borrowed time. I want to make it make more sense as to why she could be away from Rapunzel for days up to weeks at a time without using her hair in order to get paints or books or whatever to entertain Rapunzel. But then she's as desperate as she is to get her back when Rapunzel leaves. And of course, it's also because Gothel doesn't want to risk Rapunzel leaving and never returning, so I know that's also why she was so adamant to keep Rapunzel imprisoned. Anyway, there's that darn beeping again. So, Rapunzel is 2, almost 3. The security breach by Gothel is revealed almost a month passes by. It's the night of Rapunzel's 3rd birthday, and there's an incident where Gothel breaks in. She then tries to cut a piece of hair. That doesn't work, so Gothel's discovered. She attempts to escape with Rapunzel. It's a whole ordeal. Gothel and Rapunzel are separated, so Gothel resorts to killing anyone to try to keep her from the princess. Some security, some nobility, including the Fitzherberts. Eugene/Flynn would be orphaned, and with no one to take care of him, he's left alone, along with some other children. Gothel makes her way back to Rapunzel. A guard tells Rapunzel to hide in the room she's kept in. Rapunzel doesn't see, but hears the struggle between Gothel and multiple guards after she breaks in. Gothel kills the men and takes Rapunzel away. When Gothel takes Rapunzel away to the tower, she tells Rapunzel that her parents died and that she has to take care of her. I think this plot point would be plausible, and I want to ensure that not only does Rapunzel remember the horror of the raid, she's already considering Gothel a friend to her, so she'd believe Gothel about her parents dying. And she's also like 3, so, you know. I really love the conversation and visuals happening when Gothel is brushing Rapunzel's hair as a child, and the image of her hair trailing behind her, so I want to keep some of the same shots like those. An element I want to introduce is that her hair flickers when she hums, so later when she's underwater, she could still be singing. I'd adjust the visual of her hair trailing on the floor when she's 5 or 6, so that as she's walking by and her hair is dragging, she's humming and her hair flickers like a firefly. As I mentioned, I like the conversation happening between Gothel and Rapunzel when Rapunzel asks why she can't go outside and Gothel lies to her and calls her flower. I want to push that teeny little detail further that when Rapunzel's with Gothel, Gothel only refers to her as flower. Part of this conversation, I'd expand it just a little bit as means of expositing the story changes. When Rapunzel is still at the age of 3, Gothel would teach Rapunzel the song. We can have the scene be a little bit of a duet moment between Gothel and Rapunzel, only a verse. We don't need all of the whole song yet. Gothel could say something at the end like, "There, now you know the words yourself, you can sing it for me." And then, when Rapunzel asked about going outside, Gothel would say that the night of the raid, people came to kidnap her, and Gothel saved her because her hair has magic healing powers, and the world is full of evil, cruel people, so they have to stay inside for her protection. Rapunzel would say, "Yes, Godmother," instead of Mommy. While I've always been gutted by Rapunzel calling Gothel her mother, I need Rapunzel to remember her mother a little bit in this pitch and to not feel attached to Gothel in the same way she is in the animated original. Again, this is for the narrative purpose of the story. I don't believe in making changes just to make changes. The changes I'm making are to broaden some ideas and plot points from the original, and given what I want to accomplish with the characters, this is where I feel some changes are needed for my adjusted narrative. On a character adjustment, this might have only been confusing to me, but I always thought it peculiar for Gothel to come across so attached to Rapunzel. Like, I understand her wanting to deceive Rapunzel, but I'd rather her be more overtly ruthless or completely sympathetic. In my version, I'm leaning towards ruthless, which would be shown from violence, her clear abuse and manipulation of Rapunzel, and then also from objectifying Rapunzel. In my pitch, Gothel has no attachment to Rapunzel, and it's not up to interpretation. It's more so the approach I'm going for because I don't want to sympathize with Gothel when she's a kidnapper groomer with no remorse. That's still present in the animated film. Okay, so the raid happens. Gothel kills people in order to kidnap Rapunzel. Kids are orphaned and displaced. It's a dark time for the kingdom. This is where I want to incorporate a little montage of Rapunzel getting a bit older to then line up with the king and queen releasing the lanterns every year. We know the lantern releases in hopes their daughter will find her way back to the kingdom. I want to add in that it's also a means of honoring, remembering the lives lost. This is where the parents' duet of the morning song reprise would come in. The lyrics I came up with would be: "Sunset on what's past, sunshine up ahead, looking for what's lost, bring back what once was mine." Overlain with Rapunzel aging and growing up to be about age 6, I'd pause the singing before the line, "What once was mine," have the conversation between Gothel and Rapunzel play out, then Rapunzel would sneak off to see the lights, humming, her hair flickers. We resume the parents singing and have Rapunzel again sing the last line, "What once was mine," so her little cute baby voice harmonizes with her parents. This is where the narration from the mother could come back in and then end, and the lanterns release in the sky as we see Rapunzel watch them afar with hope and longing. Now we flash forward. The life in the tower is kinda cold, boring. Rapunzel tries to liven it up but only feels warmth when Gothel leaves, when she can dream freely, when she spends time with Pascal. In the live action, I want to show off the space, more wide sweeping shots, incorporating more aerial shots too, to also give us an idea of how much hair Rapunzel has. I'm losing my voice. Need a swig of water. Okay. And to give us a visual indicator that if she didn't have this magical hair, she never would have been isolated in the first place. She would be so desperate to start her life and see the world to get out of this dead end life. I don't have this in my notes, but it was so funny to me ish. Not funny, haha, but just funny, huh? When I was writing the word dead end, and I realized how much dead end sounds like dead end. And I was like, is it dead end job or dead end job? Two words, one word. Just a thought. Anyway, we know that Gothel allows Rapunzel to do her hobbies in the tower to keep her occupied. She takes trips just to acquire books, more things for Rapunzel to do. We start off with Rapunzel mentioning she finished another volume of insert time accurate story, and she'd love to read the next one. Gothel leaves for that. Pascal jumps out of his hiding spot to join Rapunzel. She shows him a little bit of the outfit she's been working on for him. Rapunzel cleans up her sewing kit and paints, prepares for bed, brushes her hair. We skip forward a bit because her hair is too long. I'm not showing her that beeping again. I'm not showing her brushing all her hair. The animated film didn't do that either because no. Anyway, she says goodnight to Pascal. I want to add in Rapunzel having dreams slash nightmares kinda her whole life. Like she's been wondering about the night her parents died. So part of Rapunzel's motive in leaving the tower in my pitch is that she wants to revisit her childhood home where she has fond memories. In this story, she feels the disconnect from her godmother and thinks it's because of the raid. Rapunzel would wake up from her nightmare, the sun is rising, and she talks to Pascal about having the nightmare again, and how she remembers having such happy times with Gothel, and she thinks that if they just revisit the old home, it'll bring back the happiness, and, bring back what once was mine. I really want these lyrics to have so much more depth in this movie. Anyway, not that they don't, but I just love how many like things we can be talking about with bring back what once was mine. It can be about her childhood home. It can be about the false memories with Gothel. It can be about her mom and dad. Like there's just so much like richness to these lyrics that I would love to expand upon. So, Rapunzel would also remember seeing the lanterns in person. A plot detail to work into the script, Gothel would have told her that she's nobility and not royalty. The thing about lies and manipulation is that enough pieces of truth make the lie more believable. So, Pascal and Rapunzel would have an altered version of the I like it in here and so do you. Pascal can point outside, I think. And Rapunzel can say something like, dreams are just dreams. And then she'll say the, come on, Pascal, it's not so bad line. And then we get the, when will my life begin song. As I might have mentioned earlier, as far as the visual change within this musical number, instead of Pascal wearing a dress Rapunzel made for him, he'll be wearing a little suit of armor, and he'll have a tiny sword in one hand and a tiny crossbow in another. Now, I know the line, sew a dress, is in there, but Rapunzel could be sewing her own dress here. She has a dress form, after all. Heck, the line just before sew a dress is take a climb, so maybe she rips her skirt. you know, just things that can keep the plot from having holes. Now, we're introducing Flynn Rider and the Stabbington brothers, because, after that musical number ends, we move on. This sequence will play out about the same way, with some character portrayals from the Stappington brothers looking a little differently. I want them to be more jaded than cutthroat. So they steal the crown and bolt. We get Flynn's line, "This is a very big day." We cut to Rapunzel repeating the same line. And then we have Gothel going, "Flower, let down your hair." Remember, she uses flower instead of calling her Rapunzel. Rapunzel is an object to her. Gothel returns from her latest trip. She's tossing books onto a bench or chair or counter, whatever, for Rapunzel. Rapunzel is hopeful and excited about her birthday being tomorrow. Gothel is indifferent, like she is in the original. She asks Rapunzel to sing to help her weary soul. Rapunzel rushes to the song, knowing that if she doesn't ask Gothel about the lanterns before Gothel leaves again, she probably won't have the nerve. Rapunzel's working her way up to say she wants to see the lights. Gothel stops beside the mirror, interrupting Rapunzel in a colder tone. We get Gothel asking, "What do you see, Flower?" Rapunzel would speed over her answer, saying, "Our reflections. Godmother, I wanted to ask you." Gothel will interrupt and say, "I see a smart, confident, beautiful young woman." Rapunzel would start to smile, but then Gothel says, "If you keep stumbling and mumbling over your words, you'll never look at yourself the way I look at me." Rapunzel quiets. Gothel walks away, saying, "I'm off again." Rapunzel blurts out, "I want to see the floating lights." She'll feel frustrated with herself for not just saying lanterns. We can have an actor portraying that through facial expressions, and maybe even a tiny mumble of lanterns. Rapunzel will go into how she always liked that it was on her birthday, and she knows the memories are painful for Gothel, but really would love to see the lanterns in person just once, one more time. I considered having a small flashback of Rapunzel as a 12-year-old when she charted stars to prove they're not stars and that they're lanterns. It could be the kind of quick insert before going back to the present moment, but it's an idea that doesn't have to stay. I essentially want Gothel to do less gaslighting and more emotional manipulating. So when Rapunzel is like, I've charted stars, Gothel has to be like, oh, you're right. I couldn't tell what those blobs in your little painting were from this far, but oh, the memories are so painful for me. Some crap like that. Rapunzel would be like, I understand, Godmother, but I want part of Rapunzel's argument to be that if Gothel doesn't want to go, then maybe Rapunzel could still go on her own. Then we'd have the mother knows best numbers since it's all about how Rapunzel is too weak and naive to be on her own. This song reinforces any sense of anxiety Rapunzel would have about going on her own, but it's not enough to squash her dreams. I still want this to be an upbeat, spunky song, but I also want us as an audience to be a bit unsettled, even though we're jamming. Catherine Hahn can deliver on that. So, Gothel leaves to retrieve dinner ingredients. We cut back to the chase happening between the palace guards and Flynn and the Stabbington brothers. We're keeping the they can't get my nose right bit. Flynn will betray the brothers, but kind of imply it's how they taught him to be, smiling at them like, you should be proud. So here's where Atticus will come into play. Instead of the horse having this one on one chase, it'll be with Atticus. I recently watched Rapunzel, and the captain of the guard says to the two guards with him, and one of those guards could be Atticus, this line that's kind of like, catch him at any cost, like, do whatever it takes. And they're like, yes, sir, or whatever. So I just think that, like, the guard would not be the one that would be the only one pursuing Flynn for so long. Like, I think the other guards should be pretty competent because I kind of need Atticus to keep up. So, with Atticus, and to be clear, like, he's just a regular schmegular officer. As I said, he's not the main guy that kind of goes toe to toe with Flynn. But anyway, still, the captain is there. He's his own character. So, what I want is to kind of replace stuff where, like, Maximus was like the one climbing up on that branch. I still want that branch thing. It's just going to be with a man now. So Atticus and Flynn will both fall off that cliff and get separated. They're looking a bit banged up, rough for wear. Flynn has been running from Atticus. Atticus reunited with Maximus, actually, and catches up to Flynn. Atticus corners Flynn right outside the hidden entrance to the tower, but falls into a hole because of a fake ground. Flynn leaves him there in the hole. Atticus will have hit his head and fallen unconscious. Flynn quickly covers the hole, and then when he's reaching for more foliage to grab, that's when he uncovers the hidden entrance. So he climbs his way up into the tower. Rapunzel knocks him out. Rapunzel struggles, but shoves and locks him inside her wardrobe. I ain't doing that whole she's swinging on her hair. She's using her hair as a lasso. Like I said, it's not prehensile hair. It's magical. But I just need physics to work as physics. Anyway, she'll get to say I've got a person in my closet. So then Rapunzel finds the stupid bell. Anyway, Rapunzel finds the crown, puts it on, smiling at her appearance, but then shrugs and takes it off. She almost drops it when she hears Gothel shouting, Flower, let down your hair. Gothel gets inside the tower. She looks at Rapunzel a bit absently and says, I've got a surprise. Rapunzel would reply, smiling, so do I. Gothel says, I bet mine is bigger. Rapunzel mumbles, I seriously doubt that. Gothel would groan, mumbling again, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and she's like, I've brought insert dessert ingredient for insert dessert to go with your favorite hazelnut soup. Surprise. Rapunzel will be thankful and then try to bring up the lanterns, which is where we get Gothel screaming, enough with the lights already. You are not leaving this tower ever. Rapunzel lies and says she just wanted paints. Gothel will complain it's a 3-day journey. Rapunzel says I just thought it would be better than the. I want Rapunzel to not finish her sentence here. Because I partly want it to be that she's not calling them stars for Gothel's benefit. I just want this to be kind of that first feeling of I'm losing my dream. So I don't even want her to say the whole sentence of I just thought it would be better than the lanterns, if that makes sense. So of course Gothel will leave for the journey. Rapunzel has to deal with Flynn. He wakes up when Pascal shoots him with an arrow. They're pointy too, so he wakes up being like, ow, He realizes he's tied up with hair. This exchange between them will play out relatively the same, with some dialogue differences to fit the new narrative, new story that I've come up with. Such as Rapunzel doesn't play coy about knowing he's stolen a crown from the kingdom. So when he asks, "Where's my satchel?" Rapunzel will respond by showing it to him, and she'll like hold it upside down, shaking it, showing that it's empty. Rapunzel will be like, "Where's the," or no, scratch that, erase, do it all over again. Flynn would be like, "Where's the?" And Rapunzel would say, "You mean the crown you stole? I've hidden it somewhere you'll never find it." Then he goes, "It's in that pot, isn't it?" Boom. So when Rapunzel hides the crown and knocks him out again, the way Pascal wakes him up would be to shoot him with an arrow again, and we'll get the "Will you stop that?" line. Continuing with my subtle changes, Rapunzel will be like, "Now it's hidden where you'll never find it." So Flynn is all frustrated and he's like, "This line came from Bestie. Love her. I don't have my satchel. Your lizard keeps shooting me." So Pascal fires another shot. So Flynn glares at him, calls him Gecko. He gets shot again. Flynn says, "Frog." And then he's kind of smirking and he's like, "You're out of arrows." So Pascal throws his whole crossbow. And then, of course, now Flynn's not smiling. So when Rapunzel circles Flynn, she'll say something to the effect of, "Clearly you're into treasure, but I'm not going to let you have my hair." Flynn would be like, "I don't want your hair. The only thing I want to do is get out of it." Literally. Rapunzel would be surprised you didn't come here for my hair. Flynn is confused. Why on earth would I come here for your hair? Sure, it's nice, but I don't want it. Then he mentions he came unintentionally via gallivanting through the woods. Then Rapunzel kind of consorts with Pascal before showing Flynn the lanterns painting. Again, this interaction between them plays out about the same with some new little gags, so it's not one to one. Rapunzel will already ask to be shown the lanterns instead of asking him if he knows what they are. Flynn's response is that him and the kingdom aren't simpatico, and that he has no interest in going there. Rapunzel would know this is because she found the wanted poster and the crown. I'd like her to be less naive than in the animated version, because I'd imagine someone as well read as her would be more comprehending. But she's still hopeful, which is why she's willing to trust Flynn in order to obtain her dream. When Flynn says no to helping her initially, Pascal turns red, showing he's mad. You get Rapunzel going hardball with her "you can tear this tower apart brick by brick" moment. I want to adjust it slightly that Rapunzel threatens he'll never have what's inside his precious satchel ever again, because I need to like have Flynn carrying tactical items like a grappling rope. Bleh, rope. So he has the satchel on the journey, just so we're clear. It just don't have the crown in it. So Rapunzel makes her promise. Flynn tries to use his smolder. He agrees reluctantly. We get the really cool shot of her dropping her hair and riding down the tower before stopping just above the grass. Then we get the beautiful reprise. On to the "I can't believe I did this" segment. Rapunzel's back and forth meltdown. Flynn is like, "I don't care if you go back to your tower or we go to the kingdom. We just need to go." You'll get Rapunzel's "I will use this." We're going to keep the bunny jumping out bit, and it'll stay the same up until the end. We keep the "best to avoid ruffians and thugs," though. Rapunzel will say that that's probably best. So instead of Flynn asking if she's hungry, the bushes will rustle again. Rapunzel smiles, assuming it's another bunny. Flynn, acting all smug, will be like, "I got this. Come on out, little guy." Atticus jumps out of the bushes, pouncing on top of Flynn, trying to arrest him. All like, "Nothing to see here, milady, just handling the criminal." They're wrestling on the ground. The officer's trying to get like Flynn tied up. He gets whacked by Rapunzel though. And so Atticus is like coming to consciousness, wondering why he's tied up, who Rapunzel and Flynn even are. Rapunzel's like, "Oh my God, what have we done?" Flynn's like, You hit him." Atticus, still tied up, would be like, "You hit me?" Rapunzel would be like, "Playfully." Atticus is like looking at her hand, like, "Is that a frying pan?" So he's looking at her and at Flynn and is like, "Who are you?" BT dubs, Atticus has a bit of temporary amnesia here. Flynn wants to ditch him. Rapunzel says they should help him. While they're arguing, they hear a bit of commotion. That's when Rapunzel will jump onto Flynn's back in fear. Flynn knows it's the royal guards. Atticus is like, "Who's that?" Flynn lies and says it's bandits to scare Rapunzel. He then leads her and Atticus away and they hide for a moment. Flynn tells them to stay low. When they're gone and out of sight, Atticus says he's really hungry and tired. And then Flynn would be like, "I know just the place." So he takes them to the Snuggly Duckling so that he can leave Atticus there and find a way to dip out unnoticed with Rapunzel. Now would be a good time to cut to the palace guards riding and running through the woods. Gothel would see them, gasp, and hide. That's when she runs into Maximus. We adjust her line a bit to something like a palace horse with no rider. Then we see her realize and rush back to the tower, find the crown and the wanted poster. Cut back to the snuggly duckling. I need this to be the like we connect Gothel to the other characters thing. If we'll get there. So we have these criminals, ruffian thugs be people who suffered loss slash can't obtain their dreams because of what Gothel did in the castle. They lost livelihoods because someone who provided for them died, or they lost a limb, making it harder to perform tasks. They wouldn't know Rapunzel is the lost princess when they meet her in the Snuggly Duckling, but they're inspired by her hope, resilience, and optimism. They realize that they can perhaps still chase their dreams because of Rapunzel. Maybe have a character in the Kingdom dance sequence that isn't one of the criminals be an embodiment of still achieving a dream despite obstacles. The ruffians would have more incentive than they already did to help Rapunzel and Flynn later on because they find out who Gothel is and who Rapunzel is, and they essentially would know who to blame for their troubles. They'd have their own personal motives against Gothel, essentially. After the I've Got a Dream, Atticus remembers that he's chasing Flynn. He decides to escape with them in the tunnel. Rapunzel asking Flynn, like, what do you actually dream of, opposed to asking him, like, where he's from? Or maybe we start with the where he's from thing and just keep the conversation going a bit before they're, like, interrupted by the chase. Anyway, the royal guards track them in the tunnels, have the captain of the guard uncover the secret entrance, not the horse. At the end of the tunnels, Atticus holds off the guards slash commits treason. It'll be Atticus fighting the captain with the frying pan since he doesn't have a weapon. Rapunzel and Flynn escape using a grappling rope, not her hair. The dam breaks, everyone is separated, and yes, that frying pan still floats its way back just before they're trapped in the cave. Same beats in the cave. He reveals his real name. She tells him her hair glows when she sings. Rapunzel sings slash hums to get her hair to glow for their way out. Still the same beats with their escape. When we cut to the Stabbington brothers escaping, add in a line like, all we've done for Ryder. Something to the effect that they're like, you know, frustrated that it's personal now. And then they're kind of like, I'll kill him. Gothel shows up and offers them a way towards revenge and riches. The riches part is something I wanted to emphasize because, again, I want this to connect to the past. So, we're on to the portion where Rapunzel heals Eugene with her hair. I'd have this play out the same, other than Pascal pointing to his own little palm. Rapunzel tells him about her past. Eugene opens up about being in the orphanage, but the conversation won't end there. This is where more sympathy for the Stabbington brothers from Eugene's point of view comes in. My initial thoughts around the two characters were, what if the Stabbington brothers were present when the castle is raided? How does Flynn get involved with those two? Then the idea came for other kids of nobility being displaced that night, and so the Stabbington brothers would have been nobility. They lost everything, including like their parents, and they, like I said, displaced. So they essentially take Eugene under their wing. They see him as a brother and take care of him. But they're willing to betray him in order to have riches again. Like I said, that bring back what once was mine stuff is like really playing in to this narrative where it's like they're older than Flynn. They remember having wealth and prominence and like all of this stuff and they want that back. They're kind of tired of scavenging and having to do all the things when they used to be a bit important. But anyway, I'd have Rapunzel ask, how did you end up with people named Stabbington? Did you ever think they were up to good? Flynn's reply would be, they're kind of like my brothers. They took care of me after we all lost our parents. They kept me alive. And so Rapunzel would ask, how did you lose your parents? So Flynn and Rapunzel talk about how they were both in the castle the night of the raid, in which case Flynn says her parents must have been important. Must have been important. Rapunzel shrugs and just says they were important to her. Flynn admits he only remembers a little and knows what he's told by the Stabbington brothers. I think at this point it'd be nice to give them actual names. When I searched their real names, I got Sideburns and Patchy. And just, no. I'll go with Elliot and Edmund. Rapunzel shares what she knows about the night of the raid and about her hair and how it has healing powers. Very strong healing powers. Strong enough to maybe bring back the dead. I'd have it that Rapunzel knows her hair can bring back the dead. Knowing her hair possesses this great power, she'd extra understand why people came for her in the night to cut her hair. On some deep subconscious level, Rapunzel wonders if her hair can bring back her parents. And so then Flynn tells her of his real dream, the one where he could have his parents back. And so this conversation would kind of play out of that's, now she's revealing that her hair could bring back the dead. And so she could say something like, "You're helping me get my dream. Maybe I can help you get yours." And so Flynn would be like, "Wouldn't that be something?" And then I want to change this line of dialogue a little bit that comes towards the end of their heart to heart. Instead of "I like Eugene Fitzherbert way better than Flynn Rider," have something to the effect of, "For the record, whether Eugene Fitzherbert or Flynn Rider, I like who you are." Because I think if we have it in context that Eugene Fitzherbert was formerly nobility and she likes Eugene Fitzherbert better than Flynn Rider, who's a thief, that can come across really wrong, which is why I came up with a new line. So then we get the Mother Knows Best reprise, scene fade out as usual. When Atticus finds his way to Rapunzel and Flynn, the sun is just beginning to rise. He'll be dripping wet. Both Rapunzel and Eugene wake up at the same time. Rapunzel reaches for her frying pan, and Atticus is like, "Don't hit me with that frying pan. I committed treason for you. I'll help you see the lanterns, but when this is all over, I'm turning you in, and maybe I'll keep my position. You owe me." Most of that sentence will be directed at Flynn. This is where I'd add in an additional song for Rapunzel, Flynn, and Atticus, "If I Can Do It" from Anastasia Vibes. And this would be a birthday song of sorts, too, because it is her birthday. Flynn eventually tells Atticus why he's being chased. In my pitch, only the captain knows the specifics of Flynn's arrest warrant, and since Atticus has kind of befriended them by this point, he wants to help keep Flynn alive, knowing that he could be hanged. So, they arrive in the lower town of the kingdom. The little girls braid her hair. They have to change clothes, change up their appearance a bit to be less recognizable for when they get inside the kingdom because they overhear some guards describing them. This is where she changes into slash acquires her iconic lilac dress. For the first time, Flynn's nose being wrong isn't so frustrating. Rapunzel makes a joke that it's a good thing they get his nose wrong. As a detail, I want other women in the lower part of the town and other areas of the kingdom to have really long hair down their back. Kind of like Queen Eleanor in Brave, so that it's not immediately obvious as to who Rapunzel is. Because I'm just saying, if you're hiding and you're looking for a girl with freakishly long hair, she sticks out. So, anyway, the kingdom dance sequence, no notes. I guess maybe Atticus can be dancing too. That's the note. And then to the boats. Atticus, Flynn, and Rapunzel discuss parting ways soon after the lanterns. Atticus tells Flynn, "I'll wait for you here. You're on the run, I'll run with you." His goal is to help Flynn escape, but when Flynn's captured at the end, it gets a little crazy. So I have no notes on the lantern scene. I love the silence with the parents, especially because this is the first time we're seeing them since the raid. I absolutely want as many practical lanterns as possible. If you need to go to Thailand for the Yepang Festival, I want the same level of beauty, craft, intentionality, and immersion. Of course, the next thing to happen, the Stabbing brothers, Elliot and Edmund, betray Eugene. Gothel takes Rapunzel. When Flynn returns tied up, Atticus pretends like he's caught the criminal. Flynn thinks he's been betrayed by Atticus too. It turns out that Atticus needed to figure out a way to help free him to save him from the hanging. We'll keep the same beats of Gothel taking the flowers out of Rapunzel's hair, which, I don't know, it feels like it hits harder since I've had Gothel call her flower all movie. Just ooh, plucking flowers? Ouch. Anyway, when we cut back to Eugene, he's about to be hanged. He confronts Edmund and Elliot in the cells. We get the escape plan, probably less antics-y, since the tone is different in my pitch. As Atticus and Flynn are escaping, Flynn fills him in on what's happened with Rapunzel and Gothel. Atticus goes to inform the palace guards, the king and queen that lost the princess. Yeah, whoa, I don't know what I just said. Hold on. Atticus goes to inform the palace guards, the king and queen, that the lost princess has been found and that she's in danger. So the kingdom alarm bells are ringing, and Rapunzel hears it from the tower, and that triggers her memories of the night of the raid. Imagine we see alarm bells ringing in Rapunzel's head as she's trying to formulate a way to escape because she realizes who Gothel is. I mean, heck, the alarm bells going off in your head being metaphorical and literal. Love it. Gothel being like, "We're taking a trip." Rapunzel trying to stall, though, because she realizes the royal guards are coming. Gothel could have a line like, "Remember, mother knows best." Rapunzel could say something like, "But you're not my mother," or "Except you've never been my mother." This response makes Gothel panicked to realize she doesn't have control over Rapunzel anymore. So Gothel's tripped up for a bit, trying to think of a resolve. Rapunzel kind of digs in, revealing that she knows Gothel's responsible for everything, and Gothel figures out her leverage. So Gothel tries to blackmail Rapunzel, saying that if Rapunzel doesn't come with her, Flynn will stay dead because he's going to be hanged. We'd have this slow creeping forward from Gothel because she's trying to trap Rapunzel. Rapunzel is confused about Eugene, and Gothel reveals that she set him up. Because remember, Rapunzel thinks that she's been left behind and abandoned by Flynn. So Gothel's being like, "Oh, by the way, your boyfriend could die." Like, that would trip up Rapunzel now. So Gothel could say something to the effect of, "Unless you want him hanged, you'll come with me." So literally, a split second later, Eugene would then shout Rapunzel's name from below. Gothel and Rapunzel would get into this fight. Eugene hears from outside and is like rushing to climb the tower. Not knowing that Gothel has overpowered Rapunzel, he's thinking Rapunzel is safe when she lowers her hair. When Flynn comes for Rapunzel and Gothel stabs him, Rapunzel promises that if Gothel lets her heal him, she won't resist and she'll help Gothel and stay hidden, like from the guards. She's willing to give up seeing her parents again in order to save Eugene. We'll have things play out as we know from the original, but I'd like to think we've got a bit more depth and stakes here. So Eugene cuts her hair off. Gothel turns to dust after falling out of the tower. Rapunzel would be upset with Eugene when he cuts her hair because she wanted to help bring his parents back, to help him get his old life back. He tells her that she was his new dream. She's even more heartbroken that her hair being cut off, she can't heal him as he's dying, and then she wouldn't be able to heal him from death either. He's giving up his life in two ways, essentially. Rapunzel sings a reprise of the morning song. Her lyrics would be, "Heal what has been hurt, change the fate's design, save what has been lost, bring back what once was mine." With tears, I'd want to repeat of "Heal what has been hurt" before the line change from her parents' reprise, "Looking at what cost. Bring back what once was mine, what once was mine." Before, the parents had "looking for what's lost." So we've changed it to "looking at what cost." So, Eugene comes back to life after her tear hits his cheek. The scene plays out the same way as the original. When Rapunzel is brought back to the kingdom and awaits her parents, I'd like a slightly longer scene so that we can see Atticus back in uniform, giving a bow to Rapunzel before he leaves the room. Then we'd have her parents rushing in and have the tearful reunion. And basically from there, the end. The ending narration would sound and be different since it's coming from the queen and the king. As I said a couple of times, I don't want everything to be one to one because if it is, I'll just watch the animation. If it's one to one in all aspects, arguably, a live action version never needed to exist to begin with. So, that is my pitch, my very detailed pitch. I did not anticipate that when I typed out all my thoughts, all the plot beats, that I would end with a 21-page script. I've always known that it takes a lot to write a script for a video essay, and now I'm curious to see how long this will turn out after I record. Thank you if you stayed until the very end. I hope you like my version of this story. I hope that it stayed faithful enough to the original, and I also hope that the changes I made serve the narrative. If you have any questions, comments, or just thoughts you'd like to share, feel free. Again, I ask for your respect and some decorum. If you'd like me to pitch another adaptation, if you like this one enough to want more, let me know. I've been working on this pitch since November 12th. That's when I first wrote the pitch part. I detailed all the plot points and touched on some of the film elements like casting, costumes, etc. I expanded my bulleted thoughts and worked out the script part over the last following weeks. Here we are today, November 28th. Now it is December 3rd, as I'm recording, but it was December 28th, and I said I was done with the writing portion. I did the illustration that same day. That's what you've been watching unfold. I had an Art Nouveau visual style in mind because of the circle element present, and I liked the visual of like the tower window, like the sun emblem for the kingdom, like her hair wrapping the frame as some ideas. I also wanted this poster to feel like an illustration, like some of my favorite movie posters do. I might keep tweaking this. I might not. Who knows? being an art student, art major, now an art professional, I never feel like the artwork is done. So, anyway, thank you so much for your support of me and my work. Thank you for staying this long. God bless. Happy holidays. Bye.